Hey everybody, welcome to Miller Meadows. So as you know, you've seen my wife do a lot of canning videos, and she loves to can as a hobby. She cans a lot of things that are in the garden, and she experiments and stuff. And today we are going to make a meal using her canned goods. And I'm going to try to show you guys a video every once in a while of what to do with the stuff after you can it. Tonight, what I'm doing, I'm going to use some canned chicken, some canned asparagus, some canned corn, and vacuum sealed rice. And we will see what we can do with that to make supper tonight. So stay tuned. Okay, so I have everything laid out. I am going to make bourbon chicken tonight using the canned chicken that my wife has canned with the side of corn, maybe mixed in a little bit into the rice, we'll see, and some asparagus on the side. So what I'm going to do is I'm using all the ingredients that she has canned, along with I'm going to use for the grease of the pan some beef fat. That's going to give a little bit of flavor to the chicken too. So that's going to help. And I'll give you the recipe. So it's 1 teaspoon garlic powder, 1/4 cup apple cider or pineapple juice. I'm going with pineapple juice. 1/3 cup of brown sugar, 2 tablespoons of ketchup, a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, a 1/2 cup of water, 1/3 cup of soy sauce, and some of them use a pinch of red pepper flakes. I like to use sriracha sauce, give it a little bit of a kick, but only just a little bit of it, not much. And a tablespoon of cornstarch. Now, one other thing that I also add is a 1/2 teaspoon, not much because this stuff is pretty strong, but a teaspoon of liquid smoke, like when you're doing, you're drying meat, you're drying out venison, dehydrating venison and making beef jerky and stuff. Liquid smoke gives it just a wonderful flavor. So I'm using that in the recipe, but just a tiny bit. You don't want a lot. Just a teaspoon, 1/2 teaspoon, okay? Did I say teaspoon? Sorry, 1/2 teaspoon. So one other thing is the ketchup that I use is our homemade ketchup. And it is not made with tomatoes. It is made with plums. Now, I'll see if I can talk the wife into doing a video on making this. But for right now, this is actually our plum ketchup. And it is so close to regular ketchup, you couldn't tell the difference. So, I'm going to get all of this set together. I'm going to cut up the chicken. And I'm going to get the rice going in our rice steamer. And I will be right back. Okay, so I'm going to let you in on this one. As you can see, I put it in a bowl because she does can bone in, as she calls it, with the bone in, which means she's going to can it and the bone's actually still in there. And what I'm doing is I'm taking out pieces for the bourbon chicken and I am slicing them up into pieces that are viable for the bourbon chicken, and they have to all be kind of the same size. And since these are all pre-cooked, I won't have to cook it down quite as far because these are edible as they are right now. All we're trying to do is get the ingredients to stick to the outside of them. Normally you use already, well, not already, but uncooked chicken,
and then you fry them in the pan until they get to this consistency. And when they get to this consistency, you add the ingredients, which is normally bourbon. And if you didn't notice, I didn't use any bourbon in this recipe. This is for anybody who doesn't have a good tolerance for alcohol, even though a lot of it gets burned off. This makes it a little bit, I don't know, easier for those people. They're not missing out on the bourbon chicken. So what I'm going to do here is I am going to get these all cut up into some pieces, dish through this, make sure there's no bones, because I do not want any bones whatsoever in this ingredients. Don't want to bite down on a bone while you're enjoying the bourbon chicken. And I have my rice in the steamer. If you guys ever want to get a rice steamer, oh, they are fantastic. You set it and you go. And we have a, I'm not sure what the brand is, but it's a pretty good size rice steamer. Not huge. You can do a pretty good volume of rice in it, but it's just perfect. You put water in it, you put the rice in it, you turn it on, push the little button down, and when she pops up, it is done. And the rice is just fantastic. You're not guessing or trying to guess of what time you need to wait for that rice to be done, or is it done, or is it soft enough. For a guy like me who's a mechanic and doesn't have a lot of time in the day, because I'm fixing stuff, that's my life. It's handy, especially when I'm the one doing the meal sometimes. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to finish up this, and then I will put the camera on the stove so you can see, and we'll go from there. See you in a minute. Okay, so we're at the kitchen. I'm going to lower this down and show you what's in the process here. Okay? As you can see, we have the already canned chicken in here. So what we're going to do is, it's staying together pretty good, but some of it, wants to fall apart. So you got to be very delicate with it because it is already cooked. And since it is already cooked, you can break it apart real easy. As she says in her videos, the meat falls right off the bone. So I am now going to add, this is the ingredients all mixed up, and I did forget one ingredient, and I forgot to make note of it. It's a teaspoon of honey, just a little, not a lot, but a little. So I'm going to pour this in. Very cool. Okay, and I'm going to let this cook for a little bit and let it get into the chicken, because it has to wrap itself around it. In here I've got corn, of course, and with our corn we always put the canned corn in, and then I put a half a cup of sugar. And you're going, oh my gosh, you're adding sugar to it. You do not have to add sugar, but if you do, it makes it taste really, really good. You'll be surprised if you've never done it. If you have, you know what I'm talking about. And our asparagus, we love butter around here, so we're sauteing that in some butter. So I'm going to get this nicely coated. Now with asparagus, of course, after you canned it, it's going to be very, very soft and very, very delicate. So to keep it in one piece, try not to move it a lot, only to make sure that it's not burning. Give it a little shuffle here and there. But if you put the stick of butter in there and you turn it on low and just keep an eye on it, let the butter melt around the bottom of it so it doesn't burn it. And then you'll be just fine. Same with the corn. The corn is going to be good because normally when you're canning it, you're going to put the whole ingredients into the pot. Now I'm feeding 3 tonight, so I'm trying to make enough for everybody. And not to feed an army, but pretty much feed everybody that we can. Now I'm going to keep these stirring a little bit, and I'm going to turn up the heat to about medium. And what you want to do with this is you want to cook this down until it starts to get dark and everything starts to evaporate, and you want to cook it almost down to no juice whatsoever, because as you're doing it, it'll wrap itself around the meat and the juices will evaporate, but the dried sauce that you had made will be now all over the chicken. And I am not a professional chef. I was a chef years ago when I was younger, but not for any fancy restaurant. I'm not one of those connoisseurs. I'm just one that uses what we got and does the best with what we can. This is our canned goods. People out there like to can goods, and it's getting very popular now, but there are some people that are going, okay, I canned it, what can I do with it? When I get done with this, I'm not going to say it's going to be gourmet, but it'll look pretty good, I think. You know, not bad. You can hear the rice in the background. The rice steamer is doing its job. When that gets done, we'll place it, make a nice little plate for it, make a nice spot for the meat to sit in the middle. We'll put that on the plate with the side of the corn and the side of the asparagus. We'll be all good to go. So this will take a while. As you can see, it's already starting to bubble, and you can see it's creating like, I don't know if you can see that or not. I don't know if this will zoom in. I'm going to pick you up. You're going to get motion sickness here, but I'm going to bring you down close to it, and you can see how it almost looks like a broth, like it's beating up into a broth. That's exactly what you want. It's going to turn into almost a sauce. So the thicker you get it, the more it's going to stick. And slowly and surely it's going to start sticking to this, the canned chicken that you put in here, more and more. The more you cook, the more it sticks. And it's going to get dark. Now bourbon chicken does get, like this piece right here, I don't know if you can see it, it's going to get that dark. If it'll be a little lighter than that, because that's the dark part of the chicken, but it will get, maybe about like this color here. All of it will be that way, and that's going to be the coating that's on it. And you will get some on the inside, but the whole key thing is keep stirring, keep it moved into the middle. Be very careful with it not to break them apart, because like I said, they are canned. It is canned chicken. And I will bring you back in a little bit and we'll see how this turns out. Talk to you in a minute. Okay everybody, so we are getting very close to the point where it's starting to stick to the bottom. And it's getting dark. You may have to use a spoon once in a while, kind of break it free. And you can go as dark as you want, that's your choice. I like it to be kind of dark because then I know it's sticking to the chicken. And it does make a mess out of a pan. So just be forewarned, if you got a non-stick, it's better to use that because it will stick to the pan. Cleaning for me later is going to be no fun. But you have to get her all cooked down good enough. And you scrape the bottom because the dark is what gives it its flavor. it is almost done right now. Very, very close. I have my corn and my asparagus just about ready to go. They're getting hot. Bring their heat up a little bit so they can boil in the juices a little bit. Now you can see this is starting to get nice and dark, and yes, some of it you can see did peel and break apart because it's so soft, but if you're careful enough with it, you'll get the nice chunks in it yet. If you don't, not a big deal, because it all tastes the same anyway, whether it's solid or whether it's frayed apart. Break them apart a little bit so they're not stuck together. And that is that. We'll turn the heat off. And because the pot is still hot, or the pan is still hot, I still need to turn it just a little bit. Make sure that it's getting stirred real good. Separate this chicken right here that's all strings that broke apart. Get that all separated, get that all separated, get it all down so I can see it to make sure everything's done correctly. The meat's all nice and coated. Scrape off this, because that's more flavor that can go into it. And I know that looks awful, but it's not. That's just the dark flavoring is all it is. Alright. There we go. Okay. And remember, don't use a metal spoon on a non-stick pan. I got in trouble for that a couple times. That's a big no-no. So, if you don't want the wrath of the wife, you don't use a metal spoon on a non-stick pan. Alrighty. We're going to kind of push this all together now. It's a little warm. There. Get it in the center. She's all set to go. Alright. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get the rice ready for this to sit on, and I will be right back. Okay, everybody, so I am finished. I've got it on the plates, asparaguses. Of course, my wife and I love asparagus, but my son is not fond of it, so he gets strictly straight corn. The rice and the corn is mixed, and we have the bourbon chicken on top of the rice. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take and we're going to see what they think. See you in a second. Hey everybody, here's the canner herself. She's going to try the meal and see what she thinks.
You guys, you put corn in my rice. What kind of sacrilegious stuff is this?
Yeah, you don't have to put the corn in the rice, but it was my choice. So we'll see what she thinks.
That's really good, honey. That's really good. It's a little sweet. It's got really nice caramelized flavors in there. And actually, I think I kind of like the corn in the rice. That's really good. I give you a thumbs up.
And there is no bourbon in this recipe at all. No bourbon whatsoever.
I gotta try another bite. That's really good.
Yeah?
You did great.
Okay. So I will hand the camera to her so I can finish. Okay, so that's how one of the ways, which I will do many of them, that you can take the canned goods that my little woman is canning, that she does as a hobby and enjoys doing a lot of it, and make a meal out of it. It's not gourmet, it's not fancy, but it's
comfort food.
It's comfort food. It feeds, and it shows you that if you're canning it, it doesn't mean, what do I do with it? Well, now you know what you can do with it. It's actually, there's many recipes that you can do. You can add. This was already cooked chicken. Bourbon chicken is usually used with raw chicken. And now you know you can take that canned goods, and even if it is already cooked, you can use it and make a perfectly wonderful bourbon chicken without it, and without the bourbon. Although the bourbon does give it flavor.
Yeah, it's pretty delicious.
Yeah.
But this is really good.
Yeah,
it's very good.
For people who can't have like alcohol or whatever, this is one way that you can do it. And I will put the recipe down below, or at least the ingredients to it. You've seen how I do it, the video shows, but I'll give you the full list of everything, and then you can kind of go from there. So, thanks again. If you like us, you can join us and watch a lot of her videos of how to can and get it in the cans, and I'll show you how to eat the stuff. So men are good at eating, that's all there is to it. So we will see you on the next time, and God bless all.